What does reincarnation mean? A cowpoke asked his friend. His pal replied, it happens when your life has reached its end. They comb your hair and wash your neck and clean your fingernails and lay in a padded box away from life's travails. Well, the box in you goes in a hole that's been dug in the ground, and reincarnation starts in when you're planted beneath a mound. Them clods melt down, just like your box, in you who is inside, and then you're just beginning on your transformation ride. And in a while, the grass will grow upon your rendered mound, till someday on your moldered grave, a lonely flower is found. And say a hoss should wander by and graze upon this flower, that once was you, but now's become your vegetative bower. Well, the posy that the hoss done ate up with his other feed makes bone and fat and muscle, essential to the steed. But some is left that he can't use, and so it passes through and finally lays upon the ground, this thing that once was you. And say by chance I wanders by, and I sees this on the ground, and I wonders and I ponders at this object that I found. Why, thinks of reincarnation, of life and death and such. I come away concluding, Slim, you ain't changed all that much. It's too bad somebody can't describe the way we feel when suddenly our community and our business, our industry, is thought to be non-essential. We think this is important. We think that our culture is important. We think that the history of this region is important. Who's going to tell our story? How are we going to get across the way we feel to other people? My family's been in this corner of southeastern Montana for over 100 years. We celebrated our centennial year in 1986. My father's father came into this country in '82, came from Scotland on a sailing vessel to Brownsville, Texas, and then worked his way north to Miles City, which was as far west as the Northern Pacific Railroad had gotten. And the winter of '86 and '87 came rolling through, and my grandfather lost all of his sheep and very nearly his life. In fact, they tell a story that a friend of his rented 2 horses and rode one and led the other one, and went out to find my grandfather and ran into him out there on a south slope, trying to pick up as much solar energy as he could. Said, I brought this horse for you to ride back to town, because if you stay out here, you're gonna die. And my grandfather said, I can't leave these sheep. They're the only thing I own in the whole world. And the guy told him, well, the sheep are gonna die, and if you stay, you're gonna die too. And my grandfather told him, he said, well, you may be right, but when the last sheep dies, I'll be here to skin it. And that's the way it worked out. In the spring, all he had left was the pelts, but he sold the pelts, and that started the McRae Ranch, and we've been here ever since. That's another nice thing about a ranch, is that you kind of have a blending of the generations. I admired and respected my dad. He was a good friend of mine. And I think Clint and I tend to have the same relationship. We like each other because we work together. We're part of a team. And we have mutual admiration and respect for one another, just like my dad and I did, and I'm sure my dad and his father had the same sort of a relationship. Cowboys have probably always been kind of popular. You know, the movies and the TV and everything like that has always looked for a kind of a hero figure, and maybe we fit in that. And so if people can get inside of that life through meter and rhyme, it's got a combination of appeals. I think the kind of poetry that you write a lot of times depend upon where you come from. not only philosophically, but geographically as well. Because one of the largest strip mines in the United States is in my backyard, I've written several poems about the effect that coal-oriented industrialization has upon the cowboy culture. This is about some neighbors of mine named Harold and Virginia Sprague. The lease hound. A Sharpie in a leisure suit with eyelets in his shoes, who faintly smelled of talcum and a little less of booze, drove into my neighbor's yard and gingerly got out, a little gimpy from the drive, the altitude, and gout. He tried to pet their barking dog while edging to the door, but once inside, his confidence sallied to the fore. "I've come to lease your land for coal," was how he launched his spiel. He'd been given authority to grant a generous deal. "And the nation needs the coal," he said, "as I am sure you know. We need more power every year to make our nation grow. And it's the patriotic duty of each American to help to get the coal mined and expedite our plan. Now, you may not like strip mining and tearing up the earth, but it's your duty, isn't it, to the land that gave you birth? For too long you've reaped the benefits from places far away. Your turn has now come up," he said, "and now you folks must pay. Your power and the food you eat and the lumber in your house and all the luxuries you have caused other folks to grouse. But now your chance has come at last to set the old debt straight. Just sign the papers I have here, and you can compensate." All the time this lecture droned, my neighbor masked his face. How could he tell this pompous fool their food came from this place? The lumber came from yonder north slope of the hill. That make do was their motto, that need meant need, not frill. The stranger felt he'd seldom better delivered his stroke. He had but to get a signature from these poor country folk. His boss would be ecstatic. His stock would surely rise. The rutted road, a rainbow leading to this prize. He'd do these folks a favor, save them from this place. Though it was dusk, he still had time tonight, a bar to grace. "If we could have some light," he said, "you folks could sign the forms. I could leave here in an hour. The forecast spoke of storms." "We won't keep you," said my neighbor. "No need to stay an hour. We'll light a lamp to show you out. You see, we don't have power." If there's one rule in the cowboy code, it dictates that we be hospitable. Even people that maybe don't deserve hospitality, our code dictates that we be hospitable. And the lease hounds that came around, I think, misinterpreted hospitality for encouragement or commitment to what they were trying to do. And they didn't treat us well. They lied, and they pitted one neighbor against another, and it wasn't a pretty sight. And it offended us. It really did. I think that probably one of the things that coal development or any kind of industrialization or urban pressure does is it tends to coalesce your neighborhood, and you go back to the touchstone of your cultural values and maybe have a reawakening or a rebirth, or at least a recognition that those cultural values that are being threatened are still important.
The only thing left's the cheap seats.
I know that coal development in our area here south of Colstrip probably has made our cowboy culture that much stronger. The ritual that branding has a lot of the characteristics of Native American rituals, because there's a blood ritual. And there's an incense. You've got the branding smoke. And everybody that is a part of the culture wears a particular costume. And you can tell the cowboys from the civilians, and we have both at a branding. But the cowboys, for the most part, will wear the costume appropriate for that ritual. It's a renewal of our whole culture. I think a lot of people assume that any sort of opposition to coal-oriented industrialization was based purely on environmental grounds. I think that our concerns were more cultural or social, and finally, long-term economic. I mean, hell, we've been here 100 years. Are we going to be able to be here 100 years from now? What are we going to be left with if they come in and condemn our surface for coal? Remember that sand rock on Emil's Creek, where Dad carved his name in 13? It's been blasted down into rubble and interred by their dragline machine. Where Fadels lived, at the old Myler place where us kids stole melons at night, they dozed it up in a funeral pyre, then torched it. It's gone, all right. And the sea on the hill and the water tanks are now classified reclaimed land. And they're thinking of building a golf course out there, so I understand. The old Egan homestead's an ash pond that they say is 80 feet deep. And the branding corral at the Douglas camp is underneath a spoil heap. And across the creek is a tipple now, where they load coal onto a train. And my folks' Miller Cooley homestead, it's no more, except in my brain. And there's a railroad loop and a coal storage shed where the bison kill site used to be. And the Guy place is gone, and Ambrose's too. And Beulah Farley's a ranch refugee. But things are booming. We've got this new school that's envied by the whole state. And when folks up and ask, how's things going down there? Well, I grin like a fool and say, great. Great God, how we're doing. We're rolling in dough as they tear and they ravage the earth. And nobody knows or nobody cares about things of intrinsic worth.